Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome here. If you do see a little drone flying around, that's our camera. Please stay out of its way. And just be aware that that is just a camera. Just ignore it. And this event is being filmed. It's being recorded. It'll be on our YouTube channel coming up as soon as it's processed. I want to thank you all for being here. This is Educators in VR Cultural Heritage Preservation Team. We are dedicated to, as part of the Educators in VR group, to really shine a light on how VR, AR, XR is being used to preserve as well as teach and educate people on historical, that's what I feel like, historical and cultural sites and languages, everything else you can imagine. We want to make sure that these are preserved for posterity, and so we bring you a wide range of amazing speakers to present on this topic, and we are so excited to have our current speaker. And I want to let you know that we have Educators in VR is a membership organization that was started right here in AltSpace, but we're across all of the metaverse. We're on all the different platforms. My name is Laurel. I am the co-founder of Educators in VR with Daniel Dabosky Bryant. And my team here is here also from the Cultural Heritage Preservation team. We have the amazing Lida, who is World. This is a part of. Please, it is open to the public. It is called Athens Agora. This is the Odeon Theater. It is a pretty much scale reproduction of this marketplace in Athens that no longer exists. She learned Unity to be able to bring this, recreate this, and bring this back to life. And that is part of the purpose of what we're doing with this amazing team. So thank you, Lida. We cannot tell you how much we appreciate your generosity and your determination to recreate what has been lost.
Oh, shucks.
I know, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And is Shirley here? Is Valkyrie here? I don't see her. She's also part of our team. And so Valkyrie is also an amazing historian and developer. She's does incredible work here and helps us out with this process as well. So we love it. If you'd like to join our team, we'd love to have you on board to help make this a success in the future. All right, enough with all this. We want to get to our amazing speaker. Thomas Flynn is the cultural heritage lead at Sketchfab. Y'all know Sketchfab. We love Sketchfab. And for those of you who heard the news that Google Poly is shutting down, Sketchfab has taken on much of that responsibility for hosting events, especially for museums, cultural sites, and for archives. And hopefully we're going to learn more about that, and for educators, because having access to those low poly models are just so essential for education. For education. So Thomas Flynn is not only the cultural. Am I gone again? Am I back?
No, I thought you were gone. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thomas Flynn is not only the cultural heritage lead at Sketchfab, but also an absolute leader in the area of digital preservation. And so we're really excited to learn more about what he's been doing, how he's been working in helping cultural and heritage organizations and projects of all sizes to develop and deliver 3D digitization, and especially for educational programs. He's the co-chair emeritus of the IIIF 3D community group, and is the leader behind what's going on with all the exciting things with Sketchfab museums. So everyone, round of applause. Thomas, make sure you're on air and you have that megaphone on, and we are ready for you. It's all yours. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much for that introduction, Laura. That was very, very kind of you. Hey, everyone. Nice to see you all. Yeah, as Laura said, I'm Cultural Heritage Lead at Sketchfab. I began working with 3D and cultural content at the British Museum, where I created their first collection of online 3D that was published on Sketchfab. Since then, I've been doing training with people around photogrammetry and other 3D scanning techniques, advising people, helping them set up their programs to digitize things, as well as offering the discounts and free subscriptions that Sketchfab offers to cultural heritage organizations around the world. And I'll talk a bit about that in a bit. There'll be totally welcome questions during the presentation. There are some sort of sections that we'll go through, so I'll pause in between each one, and if anyone has any specific questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But without further ado, let's look at sourcing and optimizing 3D scans for VR and AR and other use cases. So I'll just give you an idea of what I'm going to go through. I'll quickly introduce Sketchfab for anyone who's not familiar with it, talk about how you can source 3D models. It will cover kind of sourcing any kind of 3D model, but we'll look specifically at educational and cultural heritage content here. Then I'll sort of take you through downloading assets and optimizing them, ready to be added to, for example, VR spaces like this. And so the lion that's behind me is a kind of live example of that, a high-res 3D asset, a large file that's been down-resed and optimized for VR. And I'll talk about how I did that with specific tools, so Sketchfab obviously, and then an online service called Rapid Compact that I've found to be very easy to use. So I'm coming at this from a very, I want everyone to go away with the ability to make optimized assets, and I think Rapid Compact is probably the easiest way to do that. And then finally, I'll talk about how once you've optimized an asset, that's not kind of the end of it. Don't keep it to yourself. Put it out there so that other people can use it. And this also rings bells around open access and kind of licensing content openly for others to reuse. So, okay, I've got a lot of slides. I think there's about 63 slides, this is telling me, but I will be going through them fairly quickly, I promise. So about Sketchfab, very simply put, Sketchfab is the way that you show your 3D. You have a 3D file, it's on your hard drive, and you want to show it to somebody else online. So you take your 3D data, upload it to Sketchfab, and then you have your 3D data on the web. And not only does this mean that you can share a link and embed a 3D model as you would a video, it's also about making that data available for download, as well as making it accessible via APIs. So letting very clever developer types do something cool with the 3D that you have put online. You probably can't see it. I'm waving my hands around, but because I'm on my laptop, my hands are down by my sides. You just have to imagine that I'm being very energetic. This is just a quick look at the one of the pages on Sketchfab. Sketchfab's used by artists, designers, architects, all kinds of, anyone making 3D really. So brands, cultural heritage organizations, schools, students, just hobbyists, people that are discovering either 3D scanning or perhaps more accessible 3D creation software, for example, in VR, things like Tilt Brush and Blocks, that are making it easier for people to create 3D without a, necessarily knowing too much about normal maps and vertices and all the other things that 3D people get into. Who is publishing educational 3D models on Sketchfab? Just a brief kind of focus in on the cultural heritage section of the membership. There are about over 1,000 museums from around the world publishing 3D on Sketchfab. And then on top of that, there are other cultural organizations and cultural adjacent organizations, educational groups, non-profit scientific organizations that are all publishing 3D content that is relevant to different subjects. So you can find an amazing wealth of 3D models on Sketchfab for different purposes. The last time we checked, I think there was some 100,000 cultural heritage models in that category on Sketchfab. And then on top of official organizations, I'm doing kind of inverted commas there. There are also thousands of individuals, so whether they're professionals, scientists, teachers, 3D scanning enthusiasts, artists and illustrators. There are also people capturing 3D now, same way that you would snap a photo for Instagram. This has been boosted a lot by the addition of, for example, LiDAR scanning on the newest iPhone. People are kind of capturing things in 3D quickly, easily, capturing a moment, capturing something that is only there for a moment. And what I find, not just with the LiDAR scanning, but also with photogrammetry and other scanning techniques, is that there are some interesting collections being built, not by organizations, not by official representatives, say, of a town or a city or a school, but people are capturing things because they like the look of them, and then publishing them and making them available. So there's a really good community of people on Sketchfab publishing content that you can dip into. So yeah, just to go back to that idea, you're putting your 3D on Sketchfab. You can ignore the Sketchfab for Teams. Sorry, I should have taken that out of this slide, but the idea being that that last little loop, you're publishing your 3D on a screen so people can look at it, and you're making it available for download so that somebody can do something with it afterwards. For example, optimize it for VR. When you upload to Sketchfab, Sketchfab does all kinds of very clever things. And one of them is to convert your original 3D file format. Sketchfab supports pretty much all the major file formats from whatever software you're using, and it will convert them into two modern formats. So if you're not familiar with USD or USDZ, as it's sometimes termed, and Gltf, these are two fairly recent 3D formats that have been established for different reasons as interchange formats. Meaning that, say, you have a 3D model on Sketchfab, you know what it looks like, you know the colors, you know the materials. The Gltf file or the USDZ file should load into any other software that supports them, and it should look the same. So the idea is to have seamless transitions. Also, those files are, USDZ is used for app-free AR on iOS devices, and Gltf files are used for native AR on Android devices. So let's quickly zip through sourcing downloadable educational 3D models. Simply put, the best way to find things is, unsurprisingly, through the search. If you go to sketchfab.com search, you'll see this page in the background, minus the blue text. And someone saying something, or anyway. What you can do is, I've blown up in the center there the different ways you can kind of access search. So you can see that the models tab is selected here, and you can select categories, dates for when the model was uploaded, whether it's downloadable, whether it's animated. Staff picks are exactly what it sounds, models that the staff at Sketchfab have picked. Promotion, whether it has sound, and restricted content is for 13 plus content, which is normally turned off. So the idea is that you can get into searching for 3D models under different categories and with different features. So if we drop down the category selector for models, you can see all the different categories we have. Possibly of most interest to this group, the idea of cultural heritage, news and politics, science and technology. And because people assign categories when they upload a 3D model, Sketchfab isn't assigning or automatically assigning categories. You might find that there are, I don't know, dragons in the science and technology category, or a fantasy castle in the cultural heritage and history category. We try to keep them kind of clean, but you generally have the right kind of content. But just to warn you, if you do see some dragons where you weren't expecting them. So now I've just flipped to the cultural heritage history category. You can see the top row there is for store models for licensing. We're not going to talk about them today. We're going to talk about free downloadable 3D models. But you can already see that the category has relevant content. We've got a 3D rendition of Mir's Girl with a Pearl Earring, and Go's bedroom in 3D, and some 3D scans from museums. Click. You can kind of obviously use the search with a search term. So within the cultural heritage and history category, we can search for Egypt, and up come relevant 3D models for Egypt. So if you're, depending on what you're kind of teaching or looking to, maybe you're just looking to set up an environment like this, you're looking for statues, you can drill down to the content that you want. And then I just zoomed in on this model card. We call each of these preview cards a model card. And I've highlighted there in yellow the download icon. So this is what you want to be looking for when you're browsing the site, is the little download icon. And that tells you that that model is available for download for free. And we'll talk about licenses and attribution in a little bit. But that's the first sort of step to sort of parsing millions of 3D models on Sketchfab. So now you could also search for users. So say you have a local museum or a famous museum, they possibly, probably, maybe will be posting 3D to Sketchfab. So you can go to the users tab, highlighted in the top left there, and then choose museums, educational projects, or nonprofit organizations, and you'll get a list of members who have assigned themselves to that category. But what I've also highlighted here, so we're looking at the museums category of users now. There's the British Museum, AD and D4D are a non-profit, same with the Discovery Program. RMN Grand Palais is a group of French museums, including the Louvre and other museums. But what I've done in the top right is, maybe you can see, is that I have ordered it by followers. This is a very basic way to kind of find the more, I'm going to say better, it's not necessarily better, but if you don't select sort by followers or sort by models uploaded, you might get some newer accounts that don't have as much content on. So we can filter and search for users. So this is the user page for the British Museum. Again, I've highlighted that download icon. You wouldn't see those yellow circles on the site, but just from there you can start seeing, oh, these 3D models are available for download. We've got the Lewis Chessmen, Hoa Hakananaya, which is actually a scan that I made. It's an Easter Island statue, and some other statues from the British Museum. Going back to search, you can see what I put in the search field there is user : British Museum, and then space Egypt. So you can combine search queries to search within a particular member's 3D model. So here in the background, you can see all of the 3D models that are either the description or the tags include Egypt from the British Museum, and they're downloadable. I've checked the downloadable box there as well. So you know that everything on this page is from the British Museum, is about Egypt, or related to Egypt, and is downloadable. So how do you download? Well, it's not too tricky. Say we find a model. We want to download the Great Drawing Room from the Halwa Museum in Sweden. It's a really beautiful 3D model, and we want to download it. All we need to do when we're logged in on Sketchfab is to, just underneath the model, underneath the name of the creator, click the download 3D model button. I know this may sound simple, but sometimes it gets missed. And once you click that, a pop-up will appear, showing you kind of a few options. I've highlighted again in yellow at the top on the left. It tells you the license that this model is being made available under. So this is Creative Commons Attribution License. We'll talk about that in a second. On the other side, I've highlighted the copy button. That lets you copy the attribution text. So when you reshare this 3D model, you want to give attribution, we've made it easy at Sketchfab for you to copy the formatted text. Then we've got three download buttons. The original format, in this case, an OBJ file, and then those auto-converted GLTF and USDZ file formats. And we're going to be looking at the GLTF download. So the original was uploaded as an OBJ. Sketchfab turned some cogs and output a GLTF version of that file. A quick note before we go on to optimization about licensing, attribution, and other considerations, because I think this is worth bringing up within the context of reusing 3D content. It's something that a lot of museums are interested in, open access, making their data available, but also it's important to respect those licenses. And we do a lot of work at Sketchfab to try and make it easier for creators down the line to understand how they should be attributing or using the 3D models. So all models that are free on Sketchfab are made available under Creative Commons attribution license. And you don't worry about reading all of this unless you want to, but the attribution license is the default and it's not optional. Every model will be made available under attribution, which means you must give credit for the original work. So that means copying that text. This is a 3D model. This is the person who made it. And then you put that wherever you use this 3D model. It might be in a video game, it might be in a VR setting, but you should be crediting people. Optional extras to or additions to that license that people can choose. You can make your model attribution non-commercial, so that you're saying don't use this in a commercial product or project. You could add a no derivatives clause, which means that you can share the model, but you can't alter it, which makes it tricky when you're trying to incorporate a 3D model in, say, a VR space or somewhere else, because that's not permitted by the original creator. And then share alike means that you would have to, wherever you publish something that includes that 3D model that you downloaded, you would have to make it also available under a Creative Commons attribution share alike license. And then finally, the CC0 public domain dedication is something that I worked on at Sketchfab to make, or rather allow people that wanted to, within the cultural heritage sector, who wanted to make their public domain collections available through a public domain dedication on Sketchfab. We launched this last year. In fact, maybe the next slide is, we'll come back to that. Yeah, what it means is that you don't have to give any attribution if you download something under when it's under the CC0 dedication. It's in the public domain. You can do anything with it, commercial, otherwise, you don't have to credit anyone. Moving on, very briefly, just that's the kind of thing that is a good attribution. You're saying the name of the model, who it's by, what license it's available under, and then obviously Sketchfab appreciates any links back to the 3D on Sketchfab. This is a slide I pulled from another presentation that I did, but I think it's relevant because whatever you do with a 3D model, so aside from if you're the person that created it, captured it, and are publishing it, I think these points are relevant to how you use it subsequently. So the ethical idea, maybe somebody's published something. You can take a moment and say, well, how do I feel about this 3D model being published by someone? Do I feel the person that's published it has the moral authority to publish this, make it available, and for me to reuse it in the way I have in my mind? The legal aspect, obviously, because you're downloading under a license, it's made very clear what the legal uses of that 3D model are. Technical, it's worth remembering you need to have some chops, technical chops, to download, to optimize, to reuse that 3D model. So you need to have that in mind, like, will I be able to get from A, downloading, to B, publishing something? And then the practical side of it is, this is again more for publishers, but this idea that you can't just put something online and then expect the world to come to you. You need to tell people about it, you need to promote it, you need to talk to people about your project. Briefly going back to the public domain project, it was launched about a year ago. We've had thousands and thousands of downloads of public domain cultural heritage from Sketchfab, some lovely examples of reuse of that content. And it's all kept in a collection that I keep on Sketchfab. So if you go to Sketchfab, search CC0 in the search bar, and then choose the collections tab, you should find it quite easily. But there's about 2,000 3D models available at the moment under the CC0 dedication. Ready to go. Maybe I'll just stop there momentarily before I get into the next section and see if anybody has any questions. Any hands want to be raised? Everyone's just absorbing.
Right. Okay, sorry about that. I was taking pictures. All right. Oh, sorry. Hello, everyone. If you have a question, please hit the raise hand button, and let's make sure that we can, we'll amplify your voice so you can be heard. Okay, our first question is from Richard. Richard, you're on.
All right, I've got a question with regards to the attribution in Altspace VR, because I think most of the attribution has links to the author, to the model, and to the license. I don't think that's possible inside the world itself. Correct me if I'm wrong. Any suggestions on how to resolve that?
Maybe Laurel, do you want to talk about that? I've got some ideas, but maybe
you start. You start.
Okay. So for this model behind me, this lion, what I did was when I uploaded it to Altspace VR under my profile, I included that text that I was kind of showing you could copy and paste. So I put it where I can with this 3D model. So when somebody goes back to this 3D model on my profile, I pushed it as far as I can. I think we could have, I suppose, added some text, not to the 3D model, but we could have, I don't know, added a little sign next to this 3D model to give attribution to no3d.at, which is the creator of this 3D model. But yeah, maybe there's something I'm missing.
Nope, that is it. That is absolutely it. And so just want to make sure that you're still on air if you walk forward too far, and on megaphone. It says right in the terms of service that anything you create, you own. And so give credit and citation whenever you upload anything through, the key descriptions, through the template descriptions, through the objects. When you upload them, there's text there to put in the credit. And not turn into a link, but you can still put the link in, and that can be copy and pasted. You want to make sure you give credit. We also have many people who are very determined to give credit where credit is due, especially for copyright. And they'll add a little plaque somewhere in their world, not to make it too big, too fussy, but somewhere in the world that will actually give credit to where the content came from as well. Very important that we protect these things. The one place that, while we're on this subject, this is something that's near and dear to Educators in VR's heart and my own. If you do download something from Sketchfab, please check that license. If it says you cannot syndicate or distribute it, do not share it. Just because it's on the web does not mean it's free. Make sure that it says in the license whether or not you can pass that on. We have a lot of sharing that happens here in Altspace. Oh, did you get a cool kit? There's a cool thing. Can you share that with me? And we share and we forget that license may not allow the passing on or passing around of the goodie. Am I right?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with that. And I think as long as you do your best to provide attribution, I think that is literally the best that you can do.
Absolutely.
You're always going to be limited by the options available to you. But if you can try, I think people will appreciate that. I don't think a museum will be chasing down anybody that's not giving attribution. But I think it's good form.
It is good form. And it also sets an example for others. And we are leaders here. We're not only pioneers, but we're leaders in this. So let's make sure that we showcase this for others, right?
Totally.
Yeah. All right. Good question. Thank you, Richard. Rocky, you're up. Oh, Rocky just hung up. Okay. Is there any other questions? That was a good one. All right. Back to you, sir.
I shall continue. So, optimizing 3D models. Why do we do that? Well, simply put, putting large media files online is a tricky move. So the same way that we don't publish uncompressed TIFF images online, we publish JPEGs, we publish smaller versions. The same is true of 3D models. So it's optimizing a 3D model gives you a better user experience on the other end, a faster download, a better performance on whatever device is being used. It's more digitally inclusive, I think, because if you optimize your 3D model, regardless of whether you're going to be posting it in VR or AR or something, you're giving more people the opportunity to access your content, especially people on slower or lower bandwidth internet connections. And for people who are using older hardware, not everybody has the latest iPhone, not everybody has an Oculus Quest 2. So it's important to make your content available to as many people as you can. We optimize obviously so that things are ready for use in mixed reality. That's just one place you might actually be targeting with your optimized asset. It might be AR, it might be VR. You also might be thinking, I want to put this into my app in Unity, in Unreal, and put it into another creation that way as well. So an optimized 3D asset can be used in many ways. And then finally, very simply, I think it's clear that if you have a 3D model with fewer faces and an optimized file size, you'll be using less resources to display that particular object or asset. So briefly, the idea of optimization. Here's a quick demo with a 3D model by Dan Pett from the British Museum. On the right-hand side, you can see the unoptimized 3D scan. It's got a lot of faces. It's a high face count rate, and that's useful. I'm not saying that that's not useful. I'm saying that it's more applicable to certain contexts. For example, offline use. Say if you have a powerful PC and a viewing software, pre-rendered high-resolution imagery for research, measuring measurements of this particular object. And then as we go down the face count scale, we're going from the original high-resolution asset down to a low face count. It's ready for online real-time VR and AR. And it's important to remember that you can only really go one way. If you start with a low-resolution 3D asset, you can't easily up-res it to a higher face count or with more detail. So the lion behind me is a 3D asset from, like I said, no3d.at. It's an Austrian 3D scanning project, and the original file that I downloaded from Sketchfab was 165 megabytes. It included a mesh. The mesh is the 3D shape, and then the kind of weird mosaic image you can see there next to it in the top in the red box. That's the color texture. So that's the color that gets applied to that 3D shape to make it look like a stone statue. So the original 3D model was an 8K PNG. So 8K means that square image is 8,192 by 8,192 pixels. And that comes out something like, I don't know, it could be anywhere from 20, 30, 40 megabytes. And that total file size is 165. And what we're going to do is we're going to reduce the face count on the 3D mesh and produce a new image file, so 1K color texture, and that means that the image is 1024 by 1024 pixels. And then that purple image next to it, the 2K image, is called a normal map. And I'm not going to go super into this, but basically what the normal map does is simulate the surface details that we have lost through the optimization of the 3D mesh. And that image is 2048 by 2048 pixels. And the total file size is 11 megabytes for all of this. So that's literally this model that's standing behind me right now. Okay, a couple of caveats, just so you don't go away and try this, and then you're wondering why doesn't this work? What's happening? Is that not all 3D models are the same. There are different file formats. There are different kinds of 3D models. There are point clouds, which don't have any faces at all or any textures. There are certain formats like the STL format that doesn't support a color texture. So the statue of Nike there on this slide has no color texture associated with it. It's just a pure 3D mesh with no color. 3D model might have certain attributes that don't survive the optimization process, maybe animation, maybe audio, maybe other things. And a 3D model might be broken from the beginning. You don't know sometimes if a 3D model has holes in it or missing data, so that when you optimize it, you might be amplifying defects that you find. Not often, not always, but it does happen. And then I'm going to just show you one particular way to optimize a 3D model. There are many others and lots of different ways of doing it. This is just the way that I found is the most easy, and it's automated. You could start getting into manually optimizing 3D assets using 3D software like Blender or Maya or any other software, but you need to learn how to do that. What I'm going to show you today doesn't require any 3D knowledge. And perhaps the optimization process might be different depending on your target audience. So we know that we're targeting AR and VR in this particular case, but you might have a different use case. So this is the tool I'm going to talk about. I had never really used it before a couple of weeks ago, but when I was thinking about this session, I wanted to have something that I could show, like I say, that's easy to use. So rapidcompact.com. It's free to join, and you get, I think, 20 credits per month. And I think you use 1 credit each time you optimize a 3D model. And I found it totally useful and easy to use. So I'm not going to read this whole slide, but I think we'll make the slide deck available after the event so that you can come back to this and kind of go through. I'm just going to really quite quickly go through the stages to take you through optimizing a 3D asset. First thing is, you need to sign up to Sketchfab to download. So this would be what you see on Sketchfab if you've never used the platform or don't have an account. And there's a big arrow I've added just so you know where to sign up. Then you find your 3D model using all those search tools that I mentioned earlier. And here's the lion. I really do recommend checking out the other 3D models from no3d.at because they have hundreds of public domain 3D models. And I specifically chose a public domain model to walk through this process with you. So we click download underneath the model, and then we get the pop-up, and we're going to click download the Glpf file. So this is that interchange format that I mentioned before, and that's going to use that because when we upload it to Rapid Compact, it should just work, basically. So we've got our 3D model. So we've downloaded click the download button, you'll get a zip file. We've got our 3D model. Great. It's 160 megabytes. Let's go over to Rapid Compact and sign up. Then you'll come to this sort of empty page. At the top there, you can see we're in the base assets tab. So base asset is unoptimized. And we're gonna click that upload button at the bottom, brings you to this page, and you can see the file formats that are accepted. We've got the OBJ, we've got the GLTF plus bin plus or GLB, and that's what we're going to do. Is we're just going to take the zip file we downloaded from Sketchfab, that GLTF file, and we're going to upload it here. We can give it a name there. You can just see the model name, just so we can keep track of what's what. It gets uploaded, and then it appears in your base assets, and then you can, on the right there, under the actions, we can go to optimize dropdown, and I'm just going to use the custom optimize option. I'm not going to do too much customization here, but it's worked really well, as in that's what happened to this line. So that's what we're aiming for. Then you get to the next page, and you can select custom, which has got lots of options, fancy options. Check it out when you have time, but we're just going to use the second option, which is the megabyte target, and we're going to roll that slider all the way down to 3 megabytes. So they've kind of given you an indication there that Facebook I don't know quite what that means, but at the low end of 3D models, maybe Facebook has a limit on 3D models you can import into their software. I don't know. AR and VR, as you slide up towards 25 megabytes. I think even then you'd be starting to push some lower end hardware for AR and VR. So the balance is optimizing a 3D model so that it's light enough for your use case, but at the same time, it still looks good and it looks like the thing that it's representing. So you don't reduce the mesh so much that it looks like a bunch of cubes. You can still tell that this is a lion statue, for example. So anyway, we click we move the slider to 3 and we click next. We can drop these menus down, but I'm just going to, I left everything as it is. Atlas baking, that was the tab we were using, left all the settings default, and then I hit next. You can go in there and tweak and try things out if you want to. And then the next page, we can choose the file formats that we want. So I've chosen here format 1 GLB because that's what Altspace VR wants. And the second format could be USDZ, could be OBJ, whatever you want as a second format. You might have a software or use case for a different format. So we click go, and then we get to this page. I've blown up that status processing. This 3D model probably only took about 10 minutes to process. Once it was done, it appeared in the next tab, the rapid models. So, oh, there, 7 minutes ago. So I uploaded the high-res model. 7 minutes later, I had this optimized 3 megabyte model. Well, 3 megabytes plus the textures. I click on that thumbnail, and then I get to this page, and I can roll down and download my GLB. That's pretty much it. I didn't have to do any major thinking. I just threw in my GLTF file from Sketchfab and then clicked a few buttons. You don't have to kind of get into anything. It's great. There's a preview there. The line, you can see the preview. You might have to do some tweaking with the orientation of the 3D model on the scale later on. That's pretty much it. Once you have downloaded that GLB file, I'll just briefly go through the steps to get it into Altspace VR. I found it quite hard to find, but if you log into Altspace VR and go to /models, you'll get to this page. And you can just see there's an upload button, the gold create button rather. So you create your model, you go to grab your GLB file that you've downloaded from Rapid Compact, and I skipped that. Maybe you can just see in the background there are the fields for the name, the file, the GLB file, a preview image, and then the description. And that's where, Richard, I was putting the attribution text that I'd copied before. And that's how it appears on my profile. I have this link that I shared with Laurel to get it in here. I didn't have the privileges to load the model. And we've got the attribution text in the description there. And that's how you get a model into Altspace VR, basically. I don't know if, Laurel, do you want to talk about placing it or importing 3D models? Is there anything you want to say specific to Altspace?
Okay. So, oops, sorry, let me pop down. The first thing that you said beautifully is if you can get it right side up and about the right size before you bring it in, yay, that's most of the problem solved right there. Do you know the file size is separate from the actual physical size? So you need to kind of change the physical size and accommodate that. And then when you bring it in, you just literally are using the world editor for your world or your home space, wherever you're bringing that in, and make sure that you just use those like you place anything else. To access it, you will find it under your world editor, under the Altspace section. You will go to basic, and there is the GLTF. If you're bringing it in that way through the GLTF, that's where you would find it. You paste in the link, and this is where things get tricky. When you paste in the link, it's very hard to paste in VR. So you may have to add it to the world in 2D so that you can have that copy paste function. And then once in its place, you just move it and adjust it and level it, whatever else you want to do, resize it as you would normally. So that it's pretty simple. It's drag and drop. I do recommend, though, to bring things in as a kit item. It has much more stability when it's actually part of a kit, and you can keep adding things to your kits, as long as the file size is right. But having it as a kit item makes it much easier to use, and then you don't have to deal with a copy paste. Okay? And should we take a time for some quick questions?
Yeah, definitely. If
All
there are
right.
any.
Anyone have a question about this process or about all these things that Tom's been talking about? Please hit the raise hand button right there in your lower right. And we would love to get his answers. And I loved the images you showed on all the vertices and the polygon to make sure that we consider how we break that down and that you can't go up from a low res upward. Is there anything that we can do with something that's low res to kind of bring it up just even a little bit, or are we stuck just like with a photograph?
It depends. Well, for one thing, if you've got access to a higher res file, you could take the normal map from the high res file, but really you're kind of stuck with what you've got. You could try, you need some artistic chops to improve a 3D model that's kind of gone too far under the optimization process. But you'd have to maybe go back to 3D scan it, or ask a sculptor to a 3D sculptor to create one.
I have to rely on the experts and the expertise. And when, all right, we have a question here. I'll save mine. Okay, Life is 3D. Jim, you're up.
Yes, hello. I was just wondering if you could, this is a great presentation. I was wondering if you could put the slide back up on the screen that had all the steps right after that rapidcompact.com slide. And that way we could maybe take a screenshot of it with our AltSpace cameras.
Oops.
There.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
This is also being filmed, and it will be available at Educators in VR on YouTube.
Oh, great. Thanks.
Okay, I'll zoom back through.
You got it? All
Perfect.
right.
Yep. Thank you.
As everyone gets blindness from this.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thanks. Now, do you know, oh, Anton is up. Okay, Anton, you're up. I'll get to my question.
Yes.
Anton,
so thanks.
Yes.
Yes. Thanks so much. This is fantastic. Great presentation. So I'm interested in the creation side of creating 3D models. I work at a college, and we're interested in doing some cultural heritage work. I'm kind of piloting or trying to get a project together, working with an indigenous cultural site. And so I'm really interested in that process. And you mentioned that part of your work is training. You don't need to go into detail right now, but I'd just be very curious and interested in learning photogrammetry, learning how to do the scanning to actually create the 3D models. That may be out of the purview of this particular presentation, but some information along those lines I'd really appreciate. And again, thanks very much. This has been great.
Oh, cheers, Anton. I appreciate that. And I've got a slide at the end of the presentation with my email on, and you can email me. I have kind of like a text that will introduce you to the software and some beginner tutorials. But very briefly, there's very accessible 3D software, photogrammetry software. So creating 3D models from a bunch of digital photos of an object or a space. There are free options, there are open source options. With a bit of practice, you can start creating your own 3D models very easily. And then what you can do, if you're the creator of a 3D model, is every piece of photogrammetry software or scanning software will have the option to optimize a 3D model before you export it. So the 3D models that I'm downloading from Sketchfab, somebody's chosen to export this lion at a higher resolution specification. You could also, if you're making the model, you could just say from the beginning, I want 25,000 faces, those 1K, 2K textures. So yeah, definitely. But yeah, do email me. I'll get that slide up in a bit.
I guess if I could just a very quick follow-up, you know, as an educator, you know, in a institution, I'm interested also as well in what resources Sketchfab makes available to institutions to help us teach students how to do this. I teach right now in a photography program, and we're actually transitioning now more into a media creation kind of idea. And so I really will need to look in, we're looking into
Sure.
this for the future. So I'm just really interested in whatever resources may be available, you know, for access to students and educating and teaching. So that kind of stuff too would be really appreciated. Thanks.
Yep, totally. There's basically there's some introductory articles on the Sketchfab blog from some of the community experts in photogrammetry. I would also recommend whatever software you end up going with to follow their tutorials. Metashape, Reality Capture, 3ds Zephyr, all of these softwares have very good tutorials and demonstration data sets, so image sets for you to use. And again, I'm happy to share that via email with anyone who wants to look that up. But yeah, I think having an overview of like the process is one thing. Getting into the tutorials is another, and then there are 3D scanning groups on the Sketchfab Discord and on the forum. Should you want kind of like live assistance from the community, it's a very friendly community and very helpful, very talented, I should say as well.
Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Anton. Also, just let you know that Mark Jeffcock is a leader in photogrammetry education, and he and I collaborated on an article with a list of all kinds of tutorial references and things that are on the educatorsinvr.com website. And hopefully we'll be able to share some of that information as well that Thomas has. And we're going to be hosting some classes and training and workshops and things, as well as there are some here in AltSpace that you can attend through the Computer Science in VR classes and workshops through tryuniverse.com, who is also a partner as part of our Educators in VR membership. You can get a discount if you join Educators in VR. All right, end of sales pitch. All right. We are at the, we're coming down to the last few minutes of the event. And do you have some more to cover, or are we?
I just have a few very
okay.
Few slides, and then I'm done. I'll be able to be done in a couple of
all
minutes.
Right, so let's do the end of it, and then then I'll come back when you are done. So
okay,
let's go.
Cool. So this sort of last section I call playing forward, because I think if you're building on top of somebody else's creative work that they've made available openly using Creative Commons licenses or making them public domain, I think it's a nice thing to do to then make what you've created available under a similar license or in a similar way. So we have this 3D asset, for example, that we've made, and we put it into AltSpace VR, and that's all we want to do with it. We're done. But that doesn't mean this 3D asset can't go on to do more amazing things. Oh, this is a terrible slide. I should have taken that. But that's what we're going to do. Upload to Sketchfab, make it downloadable. The same 3D model that I downloaded and uploaded to AltSpace VR, I can drag and drop onto Sketchfab when I'm logged in to upload it to that platform as well. Then I can, this is what you'll see when you upload to Sketchfab, give it a title, description, categories, tags, and then what I've circled there is making that 3D model available for download. It's as easy as that. You kind of click save, wait for the processing to stop on Sketchfab, and then you can start sharing your 3D model. So I optimize this 3D, oh, I'll come to this in a minute. This is the 3D editor in Sketchfab. The left-hand column, you can see some tabs. We're looking at the VR AR editor here, but there is animation, annotations, post-processing, material filters, lighting, and world presets, backgrounds, and things that you can edit this 3D model. And what I'm doing here on this tab is I am scaling this 3D model. So I'm saying when it appears in VR or AR, it will be this size. And the grid on the floor is 1 meter squared. So you upload, add your description, decide you want to make it downloadable, tweak the display settings so that it looks really exciting and people want to download it. Set up for VR. I published this yesterday, and it's already been downloaded 55 times. You will find that there is an appetite for optimized 3D content, especially if it's a great 3D model in the first place. You can't see here, but just below in the description, there's the attribution text to no3d.at again. When you hit publish, this means that top right, you've got the 3D viewer from Sketchfab that you can embed like a video, some buttons. In the bottom right, I've circled the AR and VR buttons. You can start looking at this 3D model. This is just through Sketchfab, I should say, in VR and AR. I put it in my living room there. And you can do this as well. There should be a link, I think. I hope I put a link somewhere in this presentation. Making your model downloadable doesn't mean that people just have to download it via the site. Sketchfab has some great integrations with software. So that 3D model we've made available for download, people can be importing it into Mozilla Hubs, into Spark AR to make Instagram AR filters, any number of 3D creation softwares. This is just the VR and AR section, also Unreal Engine, Unity. They all have importers for Sketchfab downloadable content. So you've now made your 3D model available to a huge audience of creators, not just people browsing your website and Sketchfab. And that's it. Thank you for listening. I hope it was informative.
Yay! A round of applause. Wow. That was wonderful. Thank you, Thomas. This is just amazing. Yay. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. I also want to thank all of our crew, all of our support team that were here helping out to support this event as well, including my co-hosts, Lita and Shirley Valkyrie. I want to thank you all for taking on this great task for doing the Cultural Heritage Preservation team. And we're going to be dropping all the stage blockers and turning off megaphone here in a second. I just want to remind everyone, please, you can find out more information about Educators in VR and all of our upcoming events in 2 key places besides all our social media, educatorsinvr.com. And here in AltSpace, make sure you check out the channels. Go onto the website at altvr.com, check out the channels tab, and subscribe to our channel so you can be updated on our next upcoming events. We have our medical and healthcare team is meeting tomorrow, doing some amazing things, talking about VR, AR, and XR technology and things for the medical and healthcare industry. Our VR researcher team meets every Monday to talk about all of the innovations that are happening with research in XR technology. You're welcome to join that. And we have so many different events. So check out our website at educatorsinvr.com, join our Discord, join our Facebook, join our everything else. Thank you again, and thank you again, Thomas, for an amazing presentation. And let's make sure if you turn off the everybody come check out this amazing, beautiful lion. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers. Thanks. I have to go.